What's up, guys? How's everybody doing today? Ooh, that's missized. What's up, Dinas? How you doing, bro? Alright, so we are going to do a live review of the balance patch. I skimmed through it super fast before I went live. Today's stream is going to be super short, guys. This is actually going to be like video / stream. It's just legit a live review of the balance patch. So, first takeaway, shocker here, Wusa got nerfed. I think the nerf is going to be impactful for Wusa, but it might be. I'll tell you where I think it's going to be more impactful is on siege defense than in RTA. So we are going to have to resize the window here. I need to see this on a bigger screen, and when I do this, it's going to mess up over here. So let me get this just resized real quick on my display here. You guys probably won't be able to see the entirety of it, but hopefully it displays okay on video. But certainly I'll be going through it as we do. Probably won't be as interactive with chat. I'll do my best, but because I am going to be reading, I've actually got my entire interface is like covered up so that I can supersize this and actually see it. But I'll do my best to be interactive with chat as we go. So, guys, here we go. This is the review of the balance patch. So first up, we have got the Water and the Light Pioneers. Both of them are now going to be doing damage by 20% of their max HP on their skill 2, as opposed to, by 15% as opposed to 20%. Now, that's actually pretty significant. That is a 25% reduction in damage. That is huge. At the same time, as much damage as these guys do, it's not the only reason that they jumped into the meta. Normally I'm always the first one to jump on the boat of like people undervaluing or overvaluing, well, usually underestimating how significant a nerf is. This is significant. It is a 25% reduction in damage, but the Pioneers already had pretty good kits, and I don't think this is going to drop them completely out of the meta. Certainly Nagong is going to remain OP. For RTA purposes, I don't think this changes all that much as far as how often Wusa gets used. Nagong's still going to be there every match if you've got Nagong. For siege purposes, this may knock Wusa out of the siege defense meta though. That is kind of the big thing here is I don't know if Wusa is going to remain in the siege defense meta. By the way, for people coming in stream, I'm going to mention this a couple of times. Actually, let me just type this in. The balance patch window blocks chat. I apologize if I don't see or respond to your chat. Let's go ahead and pin this up, just because the text is too small if I don't expand this so big that I can't see chat. Okay, next up we have got the Light Monkey King, Kitandiches, or I can't pronounce it. You guys will rip me in comments, I'm sure, but arguably one of the top 3 LD5s in the game, so he too gets a nerf, decreases the target's attack bar now by 30% per harmful effect granted on each enemy. Honestly, I see this changing nothing. I could be wrong, but I see this changing absolutely nothing. It's still AoE CC, and more importantly is he is built into CC comps. So as OP as he is, this isn't really going to change anything. Maybe once in a while you get a resistance somewhere, and like, no, I see it changing nothing. He's going to remain OP, and he's going to remain in CC comps, and this really isn't going to change much. Okay, the Ifrit's Triple Crush. This actually will have a little bit of impact in RTA and much more of an impact in Siege. So Fire, Water, and Light, which is obviously Tasarian, Theamars, and Elsharian, now inflict damage proportional to attack power and attack speed. So Elsharion in particular, because Elsharion last balance patch also got a buff to increase his speed based on beneficial effects. Elsharion's damage is going to be through the roof. But Tessarion, now doing big damage on the skill 2, may maybe come back into the Siege defense meta. Never fell out of Siege offense meta, never fell out of RTA meta. So this could be pretty significant. Honestly, this may change how we build our Tessas and may make him much more of an offensive threat. I don't personally think Tessa needed a buff. I think Tessa was already in the meta, was already really strong. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think it breaks him, but it does make him top tier. And then Theomars, also, obviously, I use Theomars every siege. He's not on the defensive meta. He's not coming back on the defensive meta. This is not enough to put him meta. I mean, you'll see him occasionally on some defenses, but this won't make him meta on defense. This makes him, again, stronger on offense. I think it's kind of nice. I will say this. It's kind of nice that they did this for free-to-play monsters, because now, especially Tessa and Theo are going to be extremely strong for Siege offense. Okay, Light Omiuji. The passive now recovers the target's HP by 10% per harmful effect granted on the ally target when the ally starts a turn. I have no idea what the Light Omiuji did, so I think I need to go take a look. Alright, let's see here. So, Light Omiuji, legitimately, this is Dorothy, right? That one's Dorothy, I think? Oh, Saimai. No, Saimai, okay. Light Omiuji, so the current passive limits the number, that's what I thought she did. That's actually what I thought she did. Limits the number of turns of harmful effects on allies and beneficial effects on enemies to 1 turn. That's what I thought she did, so I must have misread this then, because it didn't look to make a whole lot of sense. Let's see. Recovers the target's HP by 10% per harmful effect granted on the allied target when the ally starts a turn. Okay, got it. So it's a passive heal, but it's a limited passive heal. Well, limited and not limited. So if there's like 5 harmful effects, you get 50% healing, but she's limiting those harmful effects to 1 turn, so it's a one-shot deal, not like a perna level heal. It's a nice boost. I have no experience with her. I've heard, now that I'm remembering what she is, I've heard that she's like kind of niche, I guess. Useful in niche areas, so I guess this makes her a little more useful in niche areas. I mean, it's nice that they did something that makes sense. I'll say that. It's nice they did something that makes sense with her kit, but I don't think this is gonna like make her super crazy strong. Maybe I'm wrong though, no experience with her. Okay, next up we've got Beth, the Hell Lady. So Eternal Scar, the skill 2, now disturbs the HP. Ooh, wait. Ooh, that's nice. So we got rid of the HP disturb and changed it to blocks removing harmful effects for 1 turn. So that is the, what's his name, the Bale passive. Blocks you from removing harmful effects. That's strong, man. So it makes her like a Bale, but probably a better Bale. Because Bale is mostly just for cleave right now. Well, Beth is kind of mostly just for cleave, but I feel like she has more utility because she turn cycles. Could be extremely useful for arena offense and inter-server. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I think she's still mostly just kind of an arena monster. You may see her though, in some new types of RTA cleaves because of the inability to remove harmful effects. Like put her with Nephthys, for example, that'd be OP. So I don't think she's gonna be, again, another monster. I'm not saying like, I don't think she's gonna be super meta, but I think she could be used in RTA now in certain pairings. I definitely think she'll be used in a lot more, and she's already a good arena monster. I definitely think she'll be used more often in arena monster. More often in arena. Okay. Sea Emperors. All the Sea Emperors skill 1 power surge now transfers 2 harmful effects on you to the enemy. What this does is make it so that you cannot risk YOLOing, bombing them with Ciara and then not detonating. Considering Poseidon was already freaking OP, he did not need a buff, did not need a buff, did not need a buff, did not need a buff. I feel like I could just say that for the next 20 minutes. Poseidon did not need a buff. With that said, this is not exactly a game-breaking buff. It's a very minor tweak, and probably it's something that had to happen in order for them to buff. It looks like they're really trying to buff Triton, and so I don't have any problem with that. It's a little buff to my Pontos too, and like you can tell how excited I am. I don't think it's really that big of a change either way. It is nice. It is nice. Okay, Triton, Mega Tsunami. Triton needed a buff. This is not the buff he needed. This is not the buff he needed. He needed his skill 2 to be better. So they have changed his attack bar pushback from 25 to 35%. You can't necessarily speed tune to a monster that goes through accuracy checks. So 25% was already plenty. 35% doesn't change all that much. And his skill 2 is still trash. So wrong buff. This is wrong buff, unfortunately. Okay, so now we have the Odin, the Lightning Emperor Odin. So attack will land with attribute advantage when attacking the enemy while having 5 knowledge. Now that is legit. So Odin's another monster really strong. I still use him on a regular basis, so I don't know that he necessarily needed a buff, but he was getting harder to use in the current meta. He really was. Like, he didn't fit quite as well because there's anti-crit on a lot of monsters now. There's things like Kinky, and so Odin did have less of a place in the game. This doesn't necessarily make him RTA viable, but it makes him a whole lot more viable for arena offense and also for siege offense and defense, simply because he's really hard to rune. The biggest issue with Odin is how hard he is to rune. Getting him to 100 crit rate is really difficult, and using his siege crit rate leader skill gives you issues with getting fast enough. So in theory, you could run Odin with like 52 crit rate using his own leader skill and do like freaking 100k damage. I mean, not 100, but like 70k damage. Or you could run him with 85 crit rate with the attribute advantage. So this is nice. This is nice. I actually really like this. I don't think it makes him OP or anything. I think it affects non-RTA areas of the game more, which is also cool. Alright, next up we've got the Water Monkey King, Shi Hou. He now goes invincible for 2 turns with the alter ego attack. This is like the 6th time Shi Hou's been buffed. Starting from when he was already the most OP monster in the game, they just buff him like every other patch. Somebody at Com to Us has a Woody for Shi Hou. I don't know. Shi Hou's totally back in the meta, guys. Shi Hou is absolutely 100% back in the meta. Not on a consistent basis because every freaking monster in the game strips. So the invincibility is not going to work, obviously, when the enemy strips. But guys, this is freaking broken. So every 4 turns, he gets a 2-turn invincibility. He gets self-immunity. He's got AoE CC. He's got attack bar manipulation. Ah, man, Shi Hou is busted now. I'm going to call him SS tier. So you can't say an SS tier monster is busted. I'm going to call him SS tier just because so many things strip. But if you get to draft Shi Hou into an enemy team that has no strip, you pretty much win already. That's how I read this buff. So really, really strong buff for Shi Hou. Alright, Dark Monkey King. Damage increased by 6% and now stuns AoE stun. I believe that's his AoE. So AoE stuns with 65% chance, probably skills up a little bit more. 3-turn cooldown. Yes, thank you, Mia Tsikler. 3-turn cooldown. So, Dark Monkey King gets a damage increase, which I don't really think he needed. He was really strong already. Gets an AoE stun increase. So far what I've seen them do is nerf the current meta, and this is like a trend in every balance patch. So far what they've done is nerf the current meta immunity unit and buff a whole crap ton of CC units. Yay! Okay, but Dark Monkey King, it's an LD5. He should be really strong. He doesn't get used a whole lot. I did think he was already... His skill 2 is OP, guys. But yeah, so if you've got Dark Monkey King, this should definitely make him much more in your regular rotation. Alright, Dark Anubis, monster that also got buffed sometime in the last couple of patches. Effect change, shield target and shield amount change. So creates a shield that's equivalent to 20% of the inflicted damage creates a shield that's equivalent to 10% of the inflicted damage on all allies for 2 turns. I don't know that I think this was necessary because this dude does so much damage that most of the time you're probably not still playing 2 turns from now. Like, if you get a turn with him, he probably just deleted the field. But with that said, this is nice. I like monsters that synergize well with the rest of the team. This actually gives him the opportunity to be played bruiser style because he does HP scaling damage. So you could actually play him in more bruiser comps. Obviously, I'm a turn 2 player. I like that. But more importantly, I just like kind of the overall, the synergy that this gives. I liked, for example, like when they buffed Alexandria for reflect damage to the enemy team. I like that as well. So I like this buff. I think Thebe, I think that's his name, Thebe. I think he was already really strong. This makes him a little stronger, but it doesn't make him broken. Again, though, he was a strong monster. Like, everything they're buffing here, except for Triton. Triton was crap before he's still crap. Basically, Triton is there for in RTA when you got outsped, and he's your last ditch effort, and he's there for arena defense, and that's about it. But everything else they buffed are monsters that were already reasonably strong. All right, I'm gonna catch up on chat real quick. Let me move the window here. So Light Monkey got nerfed. It's a good game on my G3 season. Axe, the Light Monkey nerf was probably completely irrelevant to you, honestly, and you already have Tian Lang and Ragdoll. Just saying. Freaking Tessa, Odin. Nice, Mia to Siegler. Let's see. Windsurfer. So yeah, we'll get there. Ario, Wusa got nerfed. Honestly, Wusa didn't. I truly don't think Wusa needed a nerf. Wusa was really strong. Did not need a nerf, but everybody complained about Wusa, and more importantly, and kind of fairly, Wusa was picked in something like 82% of RTA matches. The nerf was significant and not significant. The nerf was significant in that it's a 25% damage reduction is significant, but like 60k HP Wusa, I mean my Wusa's 55k, does 13k damage. 13 to 9k doesn't change all that much. It's still true damage. It's still boosted with artifacts. I think what might have died is the Wusa Nagong combo, but probably not because Wusa and Nagong are still both great units. So, all right, should be caught up on chat. Again, guys, I'll check in on chat periodically, but because I have to supersize my window to see the text, it is kind of covering chat. All right, so we are at Fire Ryu. This one I really do like. So I just went on this whole tirade about them nerfing immunity units and buffing CC units. Well, this is an anti-CC unit, and this is a definite, really, really important buff. So, removes one of your harmful effects if you receive the enemy's attack that lands as a glancing hit. Now, one big thing to find out, if Ciara detonates a bomb and her S3 glances, will it cleanse the bomb before it detonates? That is going to be a huge, huge question, because if a Ciara glance cleanses the bomb before it detonates, Fire Ryu is back in the meta. That is right now the 2 biggest issues with running Fire Ryu, 3 biggest issues. You've got 3 major issues. You've got Wusa, you've got Ciara, and you've got CC, specifically things like Karnal. So, Karnal is mostly out of the meta this season, but the Wusa and the Ciara still pretty much hold Fire Ryu from being playable most of the time. If Ciara can no longer detonate reliably on him, he may be very viable. And then on top of that, the CC from the Karnal can go away if you get glanced. He's going to be strong, guys. He's going to be really, really strong. I love this buff. I think, you know, he was 2 seasons ago like the only legit, well, him and Kinky were the only legit anti-CC units. He fell out of the meta and became mostly unusable. This could bring him back in. Not mostly unusable. Not usable in most situations is what I'm trying to say. So he was niche, and this could make him more than niche. Okay, Light Ryu. Damage increased by 6%. Cool. Congratulations to Light Ryu owners. I don't think that changes a whole lot, but I hope it does, because I know Light Ryu was lacking a little bit. Light Striker, damage increased by 6%. Light Striker is same thing as Light Ryu. So yeah, congratulations to you guys. I do think, from what I've heard, I've never used him. I haven't seen him much, but from what I've heard, he was lacking, so I think this was needed. Wind and Bison. The second hit provokes all enemies for 1 turn on head press. So that's got to be his skill 2. And I think his skill 2, because Wind Bison, very underrated unit. Biggest issue with Wind Bison is just the base speed, but I think his skill 2 was already an AoE defense break, wasn't it? Because the skill 3 is single target. Skill 3 is attacks the enemy to, yeah, it's a strip, and then skill reset and attack bar. It's just basically taking that enemy out of the fight. Skill 2 attacks the enemy to provoke and decrease defense. Okay, so this is single target defense break, so now it's going to be an AoE provoke with a single target defense break. That's a nice buff. That's a pretty legit buff. I think that is going to be impactful. I think that could bring Wind Bison into the meta a little bit. The catch here obviously is that if you're playing against a turn 2, if you're like playing Bruiser versus Bruiser, then the odds are the other team has so much immunity, it's going to be hard to get the provokes through. And if you're playing against a turn 1 team, his base speed is too slow to counter anything. So he's going to be hard to use effectively in RTA, but in Siege offense, this could become really legit. So I think they at least boosted him to Siege offense meta. And I said earlier, not everything has to be about RTA. So I really do like this. I really do like that particular buff. Okay, Windslayer, same thing as Wind Bison. Okay, Sky Surfers. Skill 2 for the Fire, Wind, and Light ones now increase now have a higher activation rate. That might be 100%. I think they skill up to a. Excuse me. I think they skill up to 100% now. Increase skill cooldown and absorbs attack bar. So that's actually pretty legit. I always thought that skill never needed to have a limited activation rate. So that's a pretty nice buff right there as well. That's the skill 3. So if that is the skill 3, guys, I like it even more because the skill 3 is typically what you're going to do first. So just going back to the Wind Bison, if that's the skill 3, I should have looked at the names, and I didn't. That's even better. Honestly, that's even better because, yeah, it fits with the concept of what you'd be trying to do with him. So all the same issues I talked about, though, as far as Bruiser versus Bruiser, faces too much immunity. Bruiser versus turn 1, he's going to be too slow. He's still not going to be super meta RTA. He'll be a niche RTA pick, but he is going to be definitely meta for Siege offense. Berserk looks really cool. We're going to get to that. Let's see, Ryan Walker, we're going to get to Berserk in a little bit. It looks really cool, though. Okay. So, Wind Sky Surfer, Mega Impulse Gun, which I'm assuming skill 3. I actually don't know what the Wind Sky Surfer does. I may need to go check. So, absorbs attack bar by 100%, increase the target's skill cooldown by 2 turns, and if you increase the cooldown time, decreases your own cooldown time by 2 turns. That sounds pretty strong. If that's... yeah, a lot of these, some of the newer monsters I'm just not as up to date with, especially if I don't have the monsters. So that's got to be this one, skill 3. Attacks the enemy, increase cooldown by 1 turn, absorbs attack bar. In addition, decreases your cooldown if you increase cool time. Increases the damage dealt to the enemy by 20% each, up to 100% whenever you use the skill on your turn. It's a 4-turn cooldown after skilling down, so now it turns into a 2-turn cooldown. I think Oliver could be really strong on Siege defense, potentially. We'd have to theory craft a comp that works for him, but that cycling on the cooldowns would be really strong. I have concerns about consistency because the first time you get resisted and you don't get that skill cooldown effect, it could really mess you up. But it is a really unique skill. It's going to be kind of RNG reliant, but then again, so is everything in Summoner's War. I do see him working on Siege defense now, potentially. and then potentially some siege offense as well. Could be an interesting bruiser pick for RTA. I don't know if he could survive, but he could be an interesting bruiser pick for RTA. Okay, Light Sky Surfer. Quantum Explosion decreases attack bar. I think that's an AoE attack bar decrease. It's not bad. I mean, more attack bar reduction, which just sucks. I mean, I wish... Yeah, but that's a side note for Light Sky Surfer owners. AoE attack bar reduction. Get a little more attack bar reduction. What can I say? I'm not a fan of CC, guys. I'm not a fan of CC. So I never get excited when I see monsters that are going to do AoE CC. Single target CC, that's kind of cool. Like the Sky Surfer, to me, that's a lot more strategy because you're, you know, focusing on targeting one monster. You're deciding which way, like you're game playing, you're theory crafting, you're having fun. AoE CC is just not my style. But it is an at 5. It is an LD5. It should be strong, and so it got a buff. By the way, quick shout out, guys, because I'm going to keep this fairly short, and this will turn into a video. If you're enjoying the analysis, please remember to smash the like button. I know that I'm not communicating with chat as much as I usually do, but I still appreciate if you smash that like button. It definitely helps us out. All right, Dark Sky Surfer up next. Let's see. So, as is, increases your attack bar by 5% whenever the attack bar of the enemies and allies decrease. In addition, increases the effective attack bar, increasing skills of all allies and enemies. Increases the effect of attack bar, increasing skills of all allies and enemies by 50%. This effect does not accumulate and does not apply in battles against bosses. 2B, increases attack bar of all allies by 10% each if the enemy target decreases an ally's attack bar during the enemy's turn. I like this. In addition, increases the effect of attack bar increasing skills of all allies only by 50%. I like this as well. This effect does not accumulate and does not apply in battles against bosses. I like this. Just fits my playstyle. Makes me want a Dark Sky Surfer. This is basically an anti-CC unit now. I love anti-CC. Good job on this one. This is legit. This is the type of thing that we need. We don't have this type of thing in the game. I don't know if I feel like the 10% is enough, to be honest. I feel like 15 to 20% is probably closer to where it should be, but I don't blame them for going slow. I hope if it's not enough, they tweak it next balance patch the same way that they did with, what's his name, Haygang for like 5 balance patches in a row. So definitely like this. I wish it wasn't an LD5. I wish this was a monster accessible to everybody, but I like where they went with it. All right. Wind Paladin, skill 1, now deals damage proportionate to your max HP, just like all the other Paladins do. Nice addition. Don't know why it wasn't there. I actually thought it was. Water Paladin, Justice Strike, now stuns with a 55% chance. That's big. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's Paladin Awakened Water, so that's an awakening skill. Okay. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. That might bring Josephine back into the meta. She comes back into the meta for about 3 minutes every season and then falls back out again. They keep trying to push her up. That could do it. Usually what happens is she comes into the meta and she counters like one unit and that unit gets replaced for another. So for example, they buffed Josephine when Oki was the meta. Josephine dominated Oki. Oki got replaced by a third stripper. So instead of people running AoE strip, actually he got replaced by Carnal, to be fair, who does stun but not as consistently. Carnal just did more CC. And then when Carnal fell out, he got replaced by a third stripper and so on. So every time Josephine comes into the meta to counter stuff, she falls back out because the meta will shift away from hard CC and into a soft CC, where basically it shifts away from them stunning you into taking away your attack bar and resetting your skills. For that reason, not a lot in the meta actually stuns right now on their skills, but a lot of stuff is being run on Despair right now, and that by itself could be enough. Bringing the skill 1 stun up to a 75% chance is huge. All right, Berserk is the new effect, guys. So before we get to Berserk, let me take a quick look at chat and see where we're at. So I'll see at the end it's not going to be siege oriented. I'm not sure what comment that was towards, but okay, so we'll get to the end. Terry says Light Surfer needs a little more. Yeah, I think so. 90 Celsius. Oh, okay, yeah, I think I saw when Sky Surfer got a 33 speed lead, yeah. Dars, so far, I think the winner of this balance patch is people who run CC. They basically, well, no, actually, no. I take it back. So far, I think the winner is Fire Ryu. There's a couple of other, no, Shi Hou. Shi Hou and Fire Ryu, man, those are both really significant. Beth is significant too. So the question is, like, are we talking about Siege or RTA? So for Siege purposes, I think the Ifrits are huge winners. For RTA purposes, I think Fire Ryu and, again, kind of Tessarian. I don't know if Theo's not really coming into the RTA meta, but Tessarian will move further into RTA meta. Fire Ryu is a huge winner. For Arena and Inter-Server Battle, Beth is a huge winner. So there are a couple of winners here. There are a couple of winners here, but for the most part, I feel like CC, people who run CC are winning more than people who don't run CC. They're not destroying. It's not OP. I mean, they did nerf Fire. They did boost Fire Ryu, and they did boost Josephine. So they're not running away with it. But all right. Now we're going to get into more Siege type stuff. So new effect, Berserk. When a monster is under Berserk state, the max HP is decreased by 30%. Damage dealt to enemies is increased by 100%. Attack speed is increased by 20%. And HP is recovered by 10% of the damage dealt. First and foremost, just simply, why wasn't this in the game 7 years ago? Like, Berserk, we're playing an RPG, and this is like the traditional true Berserk. Just awesome to have this in the game. It's just something that feels like it should have been in the game forever. I don't care which set of monsters had it. The Barbarian Kings make a lot of sense. Just kind of cool that this came into the game. So, Ajir, Water Barbarian King. Using Confiscate activates Berserk for 3 turns after the skill. Due to balance adjustments, the attack speed and recovering HP every turn has been removed. So basically, he used to get a 10% attack speed boost and 10% HP recovery. Now he gets a 20% attack boost, a 20% speed boost and a 10% HP recovery. But this additional 10 speed is going to be significant for Ajir because he's an absolute turn cycling machine. The damage dealt, what this means is that these monsters can be built much more bruiser style now, which is going to bring them all back into the meta. All the BKs are coming back into the meta. I don't know if it's going to be offense or defense or a little of both. Siege meta, mostly. In Special League, these are going to be freaking powerhouses. The max HP reduction by 30% is tricky, but still, if right now you build these guys as kind of like hybrids with about 25k HP, now all of a sudden we can bring them out to like 35, 40k HP because they're going to get the doubled attack power. When you lose that 30k HP, you come back to the same 25k HP they're already being built at, but now you've got double attack power with an attack speed buff. And then obviously they could also just be built as like straight up nukers getting massive amounts of damage, pair them with like a Lauren or something like that. There's going to be a lot of ways that these guys can be used now. They're going to be very flexible in how they can be built. So, and then remember that both Ajir, the water one, and Mimir, the light one, are absolute turn cycling machines. This is only going to enhance that with more attack speed on the passive. So, Ajir definitely coming back in the meta. Now, Surtur, Fire Barbarian King, not coming back in the meta. Surtur was amazing when Miho was there, but he bypasses skills that prevent death. He doesn't bypass skills that prevent being crit. And since most Siege defenses now are stuff like Molly and Kinky and all that, Surtur still doesn't really do anything. Not in the current meta. He has a unique skill, and he may come back at some point in the future without even needing to be buffed. Just the meta needs to shift. But in the current meta, Surtur's not coming back. All right. Hey, Kreisvelg, or however his name's pronounced, the Wind Barbarian King, also getting Berserk. Thing with him is because he is a buffer, he fell out of the meta, and he may not completely come back into the Siege meta, but he's still useful in PvE. He's been useful in PvE all along. this is going to make him more useful in PvE. So even if he's not in the Siege meta entirely, and I do think he'll be in like Guardian 1 Siege meta. I think he'll be in Guardian 1 Siege meta and down. I don't think he'll make it so much to G2, G3. But I think he's going to have a place in G1 and down Siege meta, and I think he's going to be, this is a really nice buff for him in PvE, which is where he's already being used. All right, Mimir. Because you guys all know I got a soft spot for Mimir. You guys all know I have one of my all-time favorite monsters. So Mimir is getting a cooldown decrease from 5 turns to 4. The stun duration changes to 2 turns. Dude, and he gets Berserk? Mimir is the winner. Mimir might be, actually Fire Ryu is still the winner. Fire Ryu is still the winner because he's more important, because he affects RTA. But holy crap, guys. Mimir OP. Bro, Mimir is back. Mimir is back with a vengeance. Build your Mimirs if you've got one. That's all I gotta say. That's huge, man. Because so he doesn't absorb attack bar the way Ajir does. If you don't know what Mimir does, he's got a 24 speed lead for guild content. Skill 3 does a 1 turn, now 2 turn stun on the enemy and takes the enemy's attack bar by 100%. So he's effectively, now the enemy can't proc out of the first turn stun, he's taking the enemy out of the match for 3 turns. If he gets a clear shot on you, meaning if he gets to hit you with no immunity, he takes you out of the match for 3 turns now, and because he's getting the Berserk and his attack speed's gonna cycle, and because they decrease the cooldown, he'll basically lock that monster out so that they never get a turn. That is OP. With a speed lead on top of it. That is OP. Alright. Dark Barbarian King. This dude ain't coming into any meta anytime ever for any reason whatsoever unless you're just really bored and feel like getting screwed by RNG. Arguably the worst Nat 4 in the game. Not just LD4, worst Nat 4 in the game. So bad. So bad. You got Berserk, but it changes nothing. Okay. Ooh, wait, you got another buff. I didn't get down to this next section. Okay, maybe. So this skill 2, Acts of Punishment skill 2 for Fire and Dark. The target defeated from Acts of Punishment while you're under Berserk state cannot be revived during battle. Ooh. Oh, does not make the Dark one usable. Not gonna lie, that does not make the Dark one usable. That may make the Fire one usable. That may make the Fire one usable in niche counter situations. So he is going to be an Ayunu counter now. Basically, Fire one, Fire counters win. Ayunu has been coming onto Siege defense. Ayunu is going to be countered now by Surtur. And most Ayunu Siege defenses are relatively low damage. Ayunu is built like Rage with no speed and no stats, just all-out damage, and then it'll be like Ayunu Vigor Molly. The Vigor is not going to kill Surtur if he's got Will Runes up. Molly is not going to do anything, and then Surtur could one-shot the Ayunu off the field. So I do think that's actually pretty impactful. I guess the Fire one is coming back into the meta, at least niche a little bit. Let's see, Surtur versus Nana as well, yeah. Alright, so let's see. Next up, we have got the Fire Sky Dancer, Wahi, Pride Will Fall. Skill cooldown resets when an enemy dies, changes to increases the attack power of all allies for 2 turns after attacking. Did she already have an attack buff? I actually can't remember if she had one. Does this give her a second one, or did she not have a first one? I honestly can't remember. I thought she had one already, right? Yeah, she has it here. So this gives her a second attack buff. Okay, that's interesting. The problem with this, and they gave her a leader skill last patch too, didn't they? I kind of ignored her because she just still wasn't very good. I know I'm on YouTube. I'm supposed to know what all these monsters do, but I don't know what a few of them do. Yeah, they gave her a leader skill, defense of ally monsters and guild content. Okay, yeah. So the problem is the kit still doesn't really make a lot of sense. The skill 1 glancing is only 50%, but on a single hit. And then the skill 2. So the skill 2 is nice. I mean, three turn attack power. I didn't realize that was 3 turns. So it's perma attack power buff. Bro, wait a second. If it's perma attack power buff, then what's the point of more attack power? What's the point? There's no point. Look at this. All right. You've already got a 3-turn attack power buff every 3 turns. The only thing this does is like refresh the attack power buff on somebody who procced a whole bunch. Okay. Yeah, Cleve Comps and CJO should have already... no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. Let me read this one more time. So, skill cooldown reset when an enemy dies. Yeah, so somebody said Rift Beast. It can't be Rift Beast because you need an enemy to die. So there's no PvE application here, except maybe Necro. Maybe Necro, because you could kind of get an attack buff on 2 different ways, but you don't need it. Maybe like, actually, you know where there might be PvE application is Labyrinth. She might be viable in Labyrinth now. Oh, it's not when it dies, it's when attacking. Okay, my bad, guys. So the current is when an enemy dies. I read that wrong. Okay, my bad. You guys are correct. Okay, you're correct. That does make things more interesting. That does make things more interesting. Okay, that makes her viable for Wind Rift Beast because of AI purposes, right? I don't think she's viable for dungeon teams, but she might be a monster that gets played around with in dungeon teams. I don't really think she makes... I don't think this makes her meta for Siege. Certainly not for Special League or anything like that, but at least it's not as dumb as I thought it was. Like, if she only increases the attack power when an enemy dies, it's just stupid. This is an interesting... This is interesting. This is interesting because she's got a good multiplier on that skill. I'm not sold, but I will test it. I'm not going to write it off as completely bad now that I've read it correct. I'm not going to write it off as bad. I will test it. It's worth testing. I'm not sold, but it's worth testing. We'll leave it at that. Okay. All right. Dark Sky Dancer. Amuse. Recovery amount is proportional to the caster's attack power. This is a smart buff. Probably needed for a long time because she is run in cleave comps and she's built on damage. Like the buff. That makes sense. All right. Water Death Knight. Effect added. Recovers HP of all allies for 2 turns. Okay. Totally irrelevant. He's still bad. And I know he's got Endure. There were some people who used him, like when Savannah first became meta. There were some people who used him. He's still bad, guys. Trust me. He's still bad. Okay. Fire Death Knight. So this is Arnold. Extortion. Resets Extortion skill cooldown time when an enemy dies. That's kind of cool. Arnold has one very specific use, which is to counter Molong. This might make him a little more effective in that role. I can't really think of anywhere else that I would use him, even with this change. So maybe to counter Kinky? Maybe it could make him kind of meta for a Kinky counter. If you could bring like another Onimusha to get the Kinky low enough that Arnold could one-shot them and kind of cycle, maybe. It's not bad because Arnold was a usable monster. Even if he was usable in a very small role, he was usable. He got a buff, so it's worth playing around with. It's not bad. Okay, Brienne, the Wind Death Knight, recovers HP of all allies by 15%. Yeah, he's still bad, guys. He's still bad. Although I think there's no more buffs for them. Okay, yeah, Brienne is still bad. Brienne is still bad. He's got niche use for early game TOA and maybe for a Tartarus Hell team. It's actually not bad for a Tartarus Hell auto team. if you don't have better revivers. But I mean, Michelle is a better reviver, and she's 3-star. So yeah, he's still bad. Okay, Diaz, control passive, decreases the damage taken by light monsters by 50%. That I really actually like. That I really like, because this makes him extremely useful in specific roles. And I really like when a monster has great usage in specific roles, except when they're an LD5. If it's an LD5, it should be usable everywhere. But for Nat 4s, even LD 4s, when you give them one role and make them excel, like Magnum, Light Sniper, right? Magnum is SS tier because he can kill 2 monsters. All he can do in the entire game is kill Julies and Lucians. That's all he can do in the entire game. But you know exactly when to use him, and when you get to use him, he wins you that fight. So that makes him amazing. So Diaz is back, guys. I think this is going to be pretty legit. Diaz is back. I wonder if this stacks with the 15% that he already reduces. I think the 15% says it doesn't stack with other skills, so this probably supersedes it, but that's still pretty legit. All right. Water Dark String Masters. Decrease attack bar by 25 to 35%. Who cares? To be honest, I don't see that changing anything because they don't have enough other utility unless this next buff is useful. Water String Master becomes immune to inability effects while playing a song. Who cares? Like, seriously, what difference does it make if she gets disabled or not while she's playing the song? It doesn't make any difference. I know it's kind of harsh, but if you think about it, you're going to agree with me. Okay. Fire, Wind, Light. Become immune to inability effects while playing a song. Changes to decreases attack power with a 50 to 75% chance. Fire, Wind, Light. Melody of Resentment. Okay. Alright. I like the attack power increase. I don't think the inability thing has any relevance whatsoever. Other monsters really need that. Maybe, yeah, no, that's it. Other monsters need it. These are not the monsters that need that particular buff. I didn't even know that the songs were stopped by stuns. To be honest, I did not know that the songs were stopped by stuns. But I am going to stand by my position of who cares, because the only String Master that's actually any good is Mirane, who's amazing. And Hung Yun is actually, you know what, Hung Yun has, okay. Yeah, I'll take it back. So for the water, but see, this is, wait, so where is it? Inability, water, okay, so they all got inability. Alright, Hung Yun, the fire one, she's also really good. The water one is still useless. Water one is still completely useless. So the who cares applies just to the water one. The light one actually does have some niche uses also. So maybe I was a little too harsh there, because I actually did not know that the stun turned the song off. Okay, alright, then this buff makes sense. I take it back, I was wrong. The buff makes sense. It's not impactful for the water one, but the buff makes sense. Probably should have always been that way. Okay, so, now Hung Yun is actually pretty good in, Hung Yun is a really good monster in, Solo R5 obviously, but also in Special League. So this will be an impactful buff for Hung Yun in Special League. Thing is, Hung Yun is usually run with turn 1 teams. The reason my reaction was like, who cares? Is because they're turn 1 teams, and most of the time, before you ever hit the String Master, the fight has been decided. Either they killed enough of your units that you can't come back, or they didn't kill enough of your units and it doesn't matter. That's kind of where it goes in my mind when it comes to the fire one at least, and then the dark one, obviously, she's just boosting Lucian and Siege. Water one, a hard counter to Wusa. I don't think so, bro. Honestly, I don't think so, because the water one plays her song and then Wusa just goes skill 2, and I know Wusa does less damage now, but I play so many matches where the Wusas don't even use their buffs. Like, there's timing in the situation of the buffs, so you'd be giving me a completely dead pick just to slow me down from using my buff, because all I have to do is wait an extra turn or 2 for your water one to be out of the song. I don't think the water one's playable. I could be wrong, we'll see. But I feel like when you bring a completely dead pick into the match, especially one that's a nat 4 with crap stats, you know, or not crap, but lower stats also. I think you disadvantage yourself too much to make up for whatever benefit you get. Okay. But we'll see. We'll see. I know people are going to test that. And it may turn out to be much stronger than I'm predicting. That's kind of the thing about these patches. We never know. We can only speculate, right? That's my speculation. Alright, Ninja. Water, wind, light. Slicing winds decreases the enemy's attack. Ooh. Okay. That's a big change because that's a 2-turn skill. That's a 2-turn cooldown skill. That's huge, actually. That's huge right there. Alright. So, water, wind, light now absorb attack bar by 50%, which basically turned that into a 1.5 turn cooldown. That's huge. The water one on his passive now increases your attack bar if a critical hit does not occur when you're attacked. That's not as big because most people typically play high crit rate, but if you go into Siege, like picture him countering a Riley, for example. I mean, just first monster that comes to mind, Riley doesn't have crit rate. She's going to be attacking him all fight long. He'll turn cycle like absolutely crazy. So that's useful. Not huge, but useful. But this first one is huge. The absorbs is huge, and when you put the two together, that's really big for the Susanoo. I thought the passive was 50% resistance. The passive was 50% resistance. Does he also have 50% crit chance? In which case, that just makes it even a little bit bigger. No Ace, I know you came in earlier, so the Wusa buff, and I said this earlier, so I'm just kind of building on that. I don't think you saw it, and again, I could be wrong. My take on the Wusa nerf, not buff, sorry, I don't think it changes Wusa for RTA, but I think they did knock Wusa off Siege defense. So I don't think we're going to see as many Wusas on Siege defense, but I also think the Water String Master didn't change anything other than not being stunned. But if you look at like Wusa Molong Savannah, I mean, there was like a tiny % chance that the water would get stunned before, but it's like nothing changed as far as how you would use it. Honestly, if you're going to use the water one now, you would have used the water one last week, kind of. Could be wrong. Again, like I said, I could be wrong, but I think we're going to see less Wusas, and I just feel like the water one doesn't do anything else. So, like, again, going back to just Wusa, Savannah, Molong, right? Like, if you bring the water one in there, and you also have to bring something in there to protect yourself from Savannah, now you have 2 0 damage supports, and you have to manage to kill Wusa and Molong in a 40k HP Savannah, because it's built on HP in that team, with whatever one offensive monster you've brought in. I don't see it. I could be wrong. Okay, so Light Ninja. So he's got both 50% crit rate. So I didn't know that he had that, guys. But like I said, I see this as useful. I think Susanoo's legit, man. And by the way, Ace, I talked a lot about siege buffs earlier in the patch, so I'm definitely trying to cover like different metas where monsters will be used, especially like with BKs and so on. But in this case, the Susanoo is completely, obviously, siege meta. I think that's a really significant buff for the Susanoo. The light one, let's see, so Slicing Winds as is, 50% chance to increase glancing hits. So the Light Ninja S3, first attack removes a beneficial effect with a 50% chance. Second attack increases the enemy's chances of landing a glancing hit for 3 turns with a 75% chance. So from this, I'm not going to go check, but from this, I would assume that he's got 25% in skill ups. So what that tells me is he's got a 75% chance one time to strip and a 100% chance one time to land glancing if he did strip. This is better than it was. This is definitely better than it was. but I don't get why they didn't just make it 100%. Like, they're Heigang. Heigang strips into glancing, and I know it's not 5 versus LD4, but Heigang does more with a passive. The Light Ninja does, I mean, they did buff his S2. They did buff his S2 and allow him to turn cycle a little also, but I don't know. This feels, I don't see why this needed to be an activation rate, because with activation rate in here, you can't comfortably bring him in. Nothing from skill ups. Then that's even worse, man. Yeah, I don't know why they've got activation rate on this. I don't know why this isn't just 100%. His multiplier on the skill is crap. And he's an LD4. There's already monsters that do exactly that. There's monsters that do AoE strip into glancing and do more. Why doesn't he just get AoE strip into glancing? I mean, Dark Chun-Li, AoE strip into glancing plus attack break. Like, that's an LD4. So why does he need activation rate? I don't get it. Yeah, slightly more consistent Jintei on Lucian. He's not usable, bro. He's not usable with this activation rate because he's a siege only. Well, okay, no. Let me walk that back a step. He's not usable in siege. With this activation rate, he's not usable in siege because you can't risk getting resisted. And yeah, I mean, you don't take anything into siege that you have to cross your fingers on. He might be usable in Special League, where you don't necessarily have to land everything. He might be usable in some Special League CC teams, but he is not usable in Siege offense, which is where he should have been made usable. So this is a fail. This is just a fail right here. Activation rate was not needed. Okay, they nerfed Christina. Okay, before I read it, I'm like covering the screen. You guys can't see it, but I'm covering the screen. Before I read it, well, you guys have all read it, so you can't vote with me, but I'm sure Christina still sucks. I am sure Christina still sucks. Let's see. Attack won't land as a glancing hit. Christina still sucks. Okay, wait. The damage will be changed due to the new effect added. Attack won't land as a glancing hit. Would you like to tell us how it will be changed? Probably do below, right? No. Fire, water, light. Fire, water, light. Okay, so the attack won't land as a glancing hit. The damage will be changed due to the new effect added. Attack won't land as a glancing hit. But they haven't told us how it's changed. Did they reduce it? Did they increase it? Does she now do negative damage and she just heals the opponent? I don't know. But Christina still sucks, guys. Okay. She will be forever the meme. They just yeah, no. Okay. All right. Fire, water, light, cannon girls, wild shot. Ooh, this is impactful. This is impactful because they all hit really hard. Particularly Abigail, the water one. She sees play in Special League. She sees a lot of play in Special League. A 20% damage increase is big. I think she's gonna see more play in Special League. I think she might be playable in Siege offense, especially if we look at some of the other buffs that occurred above and some of the comps that could be paired together. I do think she might be playable in Special League. Yeah. Sorry, Siege. Siege. She's obviously playable in Special League because she's already played in Special League, but I think she might be playable in Siege. That's a big freaking increase. 20% is huge, guys. 20% is huge. Alright, I think we do see her in Siege. Fire, effect added, leaves a branding effect for 2 turns. 90% chance first hit. Decreases defense for 2 turns. Damage from the single target attack decreased by 12%. Damage from the AoE attack increased by 12%. That has maybe some PvE applications. Probably not, just because there's too many teams that are already well theory crafted. And the AoE doesn't help in solo R5, right? So that's kind of the issue there, is it's not going to make sense for solo R5. And then it's not going to make a lot of sense in mode, because it would have PvE application if it wasn't for so much of her damage going to the AoE. She might be usable for early game necro teams, like before you've built your first Tricaru. She might even be usable with Trikaru, but she won't be as good as A-Star. So some PvE applications there, but definitely Special League applications as well, and possibly Siege offense. I don't know that I'm sold on her reaching Siege defense here, but yeah, I don't know that I'm sold on her reaching Siege defense, but definitely Siege offense and Special League. Hey Isabel, how you doing? So this is only this was an unplanned stream because of the balance patch. So the stream is only to the end of the patch. There's only about 5 minutes left. It's 2:30 a.m. my time. But glad you're able to make it for the last few minutes at least. All right, so water. However, I am going to be changing next month. My Sunday streams will be in the afternoon. Should hopefully be more EU friendly. So I think they're set for like 11 p.m. your time. Yeah, no, Siege defense won't work. Siege defense won't work. There's no death prevention. There's no crit resist. Any stuff like that. All right, Abigail, Water Cannon Girl, blocks beneficial effects for 2 turns with the first hit. That's strong. Removes beneficial effect first and applies this. That is strong. Damage from the single target decreased by 12. Ooh. That's strong. Okay, yeah. Abigail is back in the offensive meta and back in the RTA meta. As Special League, not RTA, obviously. Maybe RTA. That's really strong. That's like Rahul. That's really strong. Alright, yeah. Abigail also, like, if you're talking about Wusa counters, this is way more of a Wusa counter. This is way more of a Wusa counter than the String Masters. Well, I mean, no, that's not true. Because this one has to pass accuracy checks. String Masters don't. But she just does stuff, right? She's got defense break. She does big damage. She does stuff. I would use her more. I'd be more likely to use her. Okay. Light Cannon Girl, another really underpowered LD4. Let's see, resets the enemy target's attack bar. Ooh, absorbs the enemy's attack bar by 100%. So that's an instant turn while taking a turn away from the enemy. I don't think there is any monster in the game right now that does 100% absorb, except for the Beast Riders when the enemy has 4 debuffs on them. She might be the only monster in the game. Oh no, Ajir. Ajir is 2 times 50%. So Ajir can do it, but she's the only monster I think that has a single hit that does 100% absorb. That's big. She might be useful now. She might be useful now, because remember, she got a 20% damage increase as well. Oliver, I think that's an LD5, one of the new lights. Is that the Light Surfer? Light Surfer, I think, right? I think it's Light Surfer. Okay, so she's got a skill that only an LD5 has. That's significant, man. That's legit. They treated her well. I don't know how useful it's going to be. Oh, Wind Surfer post-buff. Okay, all right. Wind Surfer, oh, you're right, yeah. Okay. Alright, well, then it's not as legit, guys. Lots of people have it. Alright, you're right, a few monsters, but it's still pretty rare. It's still pretty rare. I think that's a nice buff for her. I don't know if it's enough, but 20% damage increase and a huge turn cycle effect is pretty good. She might be usable. At least she's not unusable anymore. At least she's not unusable. Before she was unusable. Yeah, Nick, I'll do a quick rundown at the end. Alright, so threat effect changed. This I actually really liked. So threat effect is now no longer reduced by skills that attack a single enemy target instead of AoE attacks. It's a small change and it's not a small change. It's a small change because you can just run all AoE monsters and kind of ignore it, but it's not a small change because if you have one, for example, I use Rika against Ophelia a lot. So now I don't get to reduce the Ophelia threat state when I attack with my Rika, and that missed attack is going to allow that Ophelia to turn cycle more. This is also a huge buff for a monster like Mookwol, who only had a 2-turn threat state. not a huge buff. It's a buff. It's a noticeable, legitimate buff for a monster like Mookwol. So I think this is pretty good. Yeah, Fire Paladin is the Ophelia I was talking about. Ophelia and Mookwol have the threat state. So this is legit. This is going to be noticeable. It's not busted, but it's definitely strong. Okay, leader skills of some monsters. So Wind Sky Surfer is now a 33% speed lead in Arena, which honestly way overdue, guys. It's so overdue that we only had 233 leads. This is going to be hugely impactful in RTA. He's RTA meta now. Instant RTA meta. Anything that's a 33 lead is instant RTA meta, and then he's got some really nice utility. What I do like is that he does single target stuff. So if he becomes instant RTA meta with single target stuff, we might get back to a form of the game that I just personally prefer more, where the fights don't end in 12 seconds. Because it's not all AoE everything. Even if it's still like single target snipe and stuff, it's still a form of the game I prefer more. So, but obviously instant, we're going to see a lot of him in Special League as well. We're going to see a lot of him in Special League. Yeah, we're going to see a lot of ONAT 5 in Special League. We're going to see a lot of him in inner server battle as well. Anything that's 33 lead in Arena, you're just going to see him everywhere in Arena. So that's huge. Fire Skydancer leader skill is changed to attack power of ally monsters increased in guild content. That's really kind of irrelevant, generally speaking, for guild content. Most of the time, these days we're looking for HP or speed, occasionally accuracy, but attack power is not so relevant. Okay, Veramos stats adjusted stats to match support type. This is overdue, this is useful, this is not impactful, but it is overdue, and it's useful for earlier game players. It's good that it happened. I wish they would actually do this with more monsters. I really do. Okay, some monsters' AI will be improved, so all of the totemists will use the skill first if the skill is activated. That's the totem. I like that. I like that it's one piece of predictable AI. Unfortunately, because they don't start stacked, it's not going to have any PvE implication. Had they started off stacked, it would have PvE implication. Now, one thing that you could do is run them with like Trikaru so that they self-stack, but then it doesn't make any sense. So, I do like that the AI is improved, and I am sure that this will have impacts on siege defense, possibly arena defense, but I don't think it works much for PvE because they have to go 3 times to get the totem up. Okay, skill errors of monsters will be fixed. Fire Lich fixed an error of him not getting a turn under certain circumstances. Guys, best part of the balance patch, Antares is gonna proc more. Yeah, okay. Yippee. Okay, so Antares now takes more turns. Granted, he was supposed to take them before anyway. It was just a bug, but still, Antares takes more turns. Water and Light Elven Rangers now instantly. Fix an error of having a full attack bar after gaining a turn instantly from meeting the condition. Yeah, so it's an attack bar issue with the Water and Light Rangers, and then Fire and BK modified the skill effects to be more natural. So, okay. So, better animations on the BKs. Alright guys, so that is it for the detailed. I'm going to do a quick summary, and then we're going to wrap up from here. This was longer than I intended it to be, but hopefully it'll still work as a video. So, quick summary. Nobody was shocked that Wusa got a nerf. I think we're going to see less Wusa on siege defense. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact in RTA. Shi Hou got a very significant buff. I think Shi Hou is coming back into the RTA meta. I think Shi Hou is going to be really strong on siege offense. We may see a little bit of Shi Hou in inner server. Odin got a notable buff, more because of the fact that it makes him more runeable. I think Odin is now a little bit more accessible to players at more stages of the game, so I think he'll get used a little bit more. He remains mostly siege offense, arena offense, and then a little bit of siege defense. Triton got multiple buffs and remains crap. The buffs were the wrong buffs, and he had a long way to go. And Triton is probably the biggest loser of this patch because he got buffed and he still didn't get buffed to actually be useful, except in niche situations where you need a really high base speed monster to throw up a Hail Mary because you're getting outspent. And arena defense. Will Odin ever glance against Molly? Yes, he will, Diaz. Yes, he will, because he doesn't have a guaranteed grit. He attacks with attribute advantage. What that actually means is that he gets 15% crit rate buff, but glancing checks occur before crit rate checks occur. So Odin can still glance against Molly. Thoughts on Thebe for RTA? Ryan, I think Thebe is a very underrated monster before the buff. I think that he is definitely RTA viable. RTA meta, no. RTA viable, yes. I do think he's playable in RTA. Speaking of, let's see, what else is notable here? Dark Monkey King becomes, so basically they nerfed the Light Monkey King CC and they buffed the Dark Monkey King CC, but no, Dark Monkey King does not replace Light Monkey King. But Dark Monkey King is now close to Light Monkey King, I think, because he has a better skill too. Well, not better. They're both really good. Light Monkey King has an AoE stun, but it's not 100%. Dark Monkey King has strip into defense break, actually steals a beneficial effect into defense break, which is kind of OP, but doesn't fit the AoE gameplay. It's a damage buff, but it is not 15%. I don't know the number, but it's way under 15%. It's like maybe an extra 1,000 damage. On a monster like Odin, where he's hitting for like 45k, he'll go from like 45 to 47 or something. So it might be 15% of like base attack or something like that. But yeah, Odin's definitely going to be more consistent siege offense. There's a tiny buff on the attack side, but it's a small one. Okay, let's see. Who else is notable? Fire Ryu. Fire Ryu actually is probably the biggest winner, in my opinion, of the balance patch for RTA purposes. Not the biggest winner of the patch, but the biggest RTA winner, because he went from being the king of the meta to being barely usable back to being pretty viable. I think he's going to be really viable now. So Fire Ryu got a huge win. It wasn't a huge buff, but it was the right buff. Like, that's the thing. A lot of times they buff and it's not the right buff, or it's not close to, you know. Fire Ryu got the buff he needed. He got the buff he needed. It's and that's going to be big. Yeah, I don't think Dark Monkey needed the 100% stun rate. I think Light Ninja needed the 100% activation rates, though. 2A Light Grim does have 100 stun and defense chance, but the Fire Monkey has way better base stats and a way better skill, too. Big problem with Prom, the Light Reaper, is that his base stats make him unusable. Dark Monkey scales to HP and has crazy good base stats, so you do have to factor that in when you look at the kits also. All right, let's see. Josephine. Josephine probably doesn't fit the meta. Josephine does not fit the current meta, but she did get a really big buff. And as such, I think that she may be usable in siege offense, and I think she's going to make a return to the RTA meta sometime in the next season or two based off of this buff. But I do think she's going to fit siege offense as well. That skill 1 stun, with combining it with the buff they gave her last patch, makes her a really strong monster. And then among the Barbarian Kings, Ajir is coming back to the siege meta. Ajir is definitely coming back to the siege meta. Freysvelg is coming back to the PvE meta, and Mimir is a god now, guys. Mimir is a god. Mimir is back to being, I hope. I might just be excited because I have a soft spot in my heart for Mimir, but Mimir is going to be probably top 10, top 15 LD4s, I think, somewhere in there. He's just going to be absolutely nuts with the turn cycling. And then, yeah, 10, I was saving that for down here. And then we come down here to arguably the biggest change monster overall, which is going to be the Wind Sky Surfer, becoming only the fourth actually, Trinity. Becoming only the 4th monster in the game to have a 33 speed lead, only the 3rd elemental game in the to have a 33 speed lead. He also got some major buffs to his kit. So Wind Sky Surfer is and isn't the biggest winner of the patch because I think he becomes RTA viable from not being viable at all. I think he became Siege offense viable from being marginally viable. I think he becomes inner server viable from not being viable. So he jumps into all the metas after being in none of the metas. But, huge but, I don't know that he fills a needed role as much as Fire Ryu. So the only reason I'm rating Fire Ryu above the Wind Sky Surfer is because there's no other monster in the game that can do what Fire Ryu does, and because he is needed. There are other monsters in the game with 33 leads. There are other monsters in the game with single target attack bar manipulation and skill cycling and all of that stuff. So as good as the buffs are for Wind Surfer and as good as his overall kit is going to be, he doesn't fill a role that can't be filled by another monster, whereas Fire Ryu does. The closest any other monster comes to Fire Ryu is Kinky, and Kinky's gotten nerfed the last 3 patches and just doesn't fill that role well enough by himself, but you really need 2 anyway because one of them gets banned. So for me, number 1 winner in the patch is Fire Ryu. Number 2 winner is probably Wind Surfer. And then the others that I kind of just scaled down through as we went through here. If you attack break Fire Ryu, and then he gets glanced again, now he shakes off the attack break, which is huge. Dark Barbarian King remains trash. He was trash, he remains trash. Fire Barbarian King got a really interesting buff. The Fire one's really interesting. I know the Dark one got the same buff, but he's just so bad, man. He's just, you have a 40% chance to proc. So if you can't take any monster into a siege offense where you're like, hey, I'll win 40% of the time. You just can't. Is it correct to say the next mob meta would be Oliver and Fire Ryu? So... Water, yeah, Diaz, I agree with you. Susano got a really nice buff as well. Susano's definitely a winner. Not the winner, but a winner. Let's see. Is it correct to say the next mob meta would be Oliver and Fire Ryu? I don't know about that, but I think they're both going to be heavily in the meta. Anyway, guys, that's it. I was really hoping to keep this video like 30 minutes. We're at an hour 15, so I'm going to sign off here, or it'll be way too long to be a standalone video. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me on the surprise stream. It was fun. I appreciate it. Hope you guys all have a great night or morning wherever you are. Don't forget to smash the like button on the way out. A last response, Beth is not still garbage. I actually think that was a really impactful buff. Because they basically gave her the Bale treatment, and Bale is really underrated and actually does get play. Beth, I now think will get niche play in RTA, but become super meta, super viable for both Inner Server Battle and Arena. Alright guys, that's it. Hope you all have a great night, and we'll catch you